Good to see you, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
Morning. Good morning, George.
Let's get a response right away to what you just heard from
sure.
the Congresswoman.
Well, I mean, do we want to continue down the direction of unemployment above 8% for countless months, a president that hasn't lived the mission, hasn't fulfilled the promises? People aren't better off today than they were 3 or 4 years ago. Do we want to continue that direction? Heck no. And as far as Harry Reid is concerned, listen, I know you might want to go down that road. I'm not going to respond to a dirty liar who hasn't filed a single page of tax returns himself, complains about people with money, but lives in the Ritz-Carlton here down the street. So if that's on the agenda, I'm not going to go there. This is just a made-up issue, and well, the fact that we're going to spend any time talking about it is just ridiculous. You say you're not going to respond, but you just called him a dirty liar. You stand by that? You think Harry Reid's a dirty liar? I just said it.
So what do you want from him right now?
Listen, this president has a job to do, and Harry Reid has a job to do. We have an opportunity in this country to save the very idea of America, to bring back the days of liberty, freedom, the American dream. And the fact is, we're not doing well right now as an economy. And this president is the head of this country, and he has not fulfilled the mission, and he hasn't lived up to the promises that he made to the people of this country. And it's hard to believe that the president of 2008, when he campaigned and said he was going to bring America together, that he would trot out Harry Reid and try to divide this country and spread this division and hatred. It's ridiculous, it's wrong, it's untrue. And it's just going to hurt the president.
Setting aside Harry Reid's charges, a lot of Republicans, as you know, a lot of major figures in your party have come forward and said that Mitt Romney should just release more of his tax returns. Wouldn't that make a lot of these questions go away?
You know, George, here's what I think. I think this president's got a problem with the American dream. You know, when I grew up, and I know that both Republicans and Democrats listening to this right now agree with this. When I grew up in a great place called Kenosha, Wisconsin, my dad was a union electrician. My mom was a realtor. We drove around town. And when we drove past a beautiful house on the corner, my parents didn't point at the house and say, hey, look at these lousy people in this beautiful house. Look at this guy in his new Corvette. My dad did probably the same thing your dad did and a lot of dads out there. He turned around and he said, listen, pal, if you work hard and you go to school, Mom and Dad, we hope you live in that house. We hope it's 2 times bigger than that house. That's the American dream. And this idea that we're spending all of our time just killing people because they lived the American dream and made something out of nothing and made money, I mean, this is crazy talk. And I just think we need to get back to the issues.
So the short answer then is you don't believe it's hurting him, and you don't think he has to do anything more on the tax returns?
No, I think it's hurting the president. I think it's hurting the president because people know that the job to do in this country and the job that this president claimed that he was going to do was, what did he say? Jobs one. He hasn't met with his jobs council. The entire philosophy of Bill Clinton, of Barack Obama, can be summarized in one word, and that's Solyndra. That's Barack Obama's philosophy.
Let me ask you another question about taxes. The president also charging this week that Mitt Romney's tax plans would raise taxes on the middle class. And as backup, they point out this study from the Tax Policy Center. I want to read their major conclusion. It says that our major conclusion is that any revenue-neutral individual income tax change that incorporates the features Governor Romney has proposed would provide large tax cuts to high-income households and increase the tax burdens on middle and or lower-income tax payers. They're saying that it's mathematically impossible under the assumptions that Mitt Romney has not to raise taxes on the middle class.
Well, that's just not true because they didn't take in a lot of the, first of all, this thing was written by a former employee of Barack Obama. That's number one.
The head of the Senate
number two,
worked for President Bush, and so did one of the authors of the study.
Okay, but
you
this
know
guy
that, and even Mitt Romney himself has cited
Barack.
this tax institute as a credible source.
Okay, we'll put aside that the author worked for Barack Obama. We'll put that aside. But secondly, the study itself said it wasn't going to be a score on Mitt Romney's plan. Thirdly, it doesn't take into account the effect of deficit reduction plans that Mitt Romney's put in place, reducing spending from 24% of GDP down to 20%, reducing individual income tax rates 20% across the board for middle-class families, getting rid of the big Obamacare tax, all of that deficit reduction, individual income tax reduction, and a plan to get rid of Obamacare brings down the deficit. That makes the growth rate in this country increase. And all of those assumptions weren't taken into effect, George. They just weren't in this plan. So I think the growth rate that will come out of Mitt Romney's plan of reducing taxes on small businesses, reducing taxes on individuals, and cutting spending in Washington, that together creates growth, will increase individual income rates and jobs and get America moving again.
Finally, Mitt Romney closing in on vice presidential selection. I want to put up something that Stephen Hayes and William Chris of the Weekly Standard just wrote this week, and they say, go for the gold, Mitt. They want a bold choice for vice president. And what they write is that what looks safe can be risky. Rob Portman, the senator from Ohio, was George W. Bush's budget director. Tim Pawlenty, former governor of Minnesota, his presidential campaign was a disaster. The 2010 election was the best for Republicans in a long time. Ryan and Rubio, that's of course Congressman Paul Ryan, Marco Rubio, senator of Florida, embody the spirit of 2010. Pawlenty and Portman don't. They want a bold choice. They think that's Marco Rubio or your fellow Wisconsinite Paul Ryan. Do you agree?
Well, Paul's one of my best buddies. I went to law school with Marco Rubio, and I think the other two guys, Rob and Tim Pawlenty, are great as well. So I think that we're going to have an exciting August, a great convention. Unfortunately, we've got a president that doesn't seem to connect the dots. We've got the birthday of the credit downgrade today, and we've got a Democratic Party that thinks we're moving in the right direction. So I think the American people see things differently. We're going to give people a bold choice. I don't think people want another 4 years of this misery, and we're going to give them the antidote, and that's Mitt Romney in November.
We will see at the convention. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much.